But no one likes to be embarrassed. But there are times in life that we are all going to be embarrassed. Doesn't matter who you are. However, there is something about getting over a massive fear of being embarrassed, because that is a theme that I definitely have seen in a lot of the comments on these videos about embarrassment. Today we're talking about embarrassment, because embarrassment is really about social expectations, isn't it? The emotion of embarrassment is a universal one, but somehow when we are feeling it, we actually feel really alone. Do you agree with that? Or what about this? Embarrassment is a bad feeling in response to deviating from the social norm designed to encourage appropriate behaviour in order to avoid social rejection. It is more acceptable to trip and fall over with a plate of food when you're at home in your house, even if there are people there, than, for example, when you're in a restaurant and surrounded by strangers. And social norms vary from culture to culture. And if we think about physiological reactions that we have to embarrassment, blushing is one of those ways that authentically tells other people that you know that you've made a mistake, something hasn't gone right, and that you're sorry about it. So what physical reactions do you have when you get embarrassed? I know for me, I think I might blush a little bit. I think my heart rate speeds up a little bit. Depending on what the situation is, I can actually make myself want to disappear a little bit, like make myself physically smaller. My posture will sort of close on in to kind of protect what's left of my soul. Yeah, and I could just want to get out of the situation, get away from people. If I'm really embarrassed, I can go all kinds of places. Like, for example, I just start comparing myself, like socially, to the other people that are there in the room. Financially, I'm making guesses at just where I am on the pecking order. It just depends, right? But professionally, like, are these people, am I at a work course that is, within my workplace, and then how long have I been there? Do I know many people there? BMI ranking, just generally life put togetherness, all of that stuff. How does embarrassment work? There seems to be three situations that can make people feel embarrassing, three types of situations. So number one is a faux pas, you've made a mistake. Number two is being the centre of attention, and that can be even if you know that you're going to be the centre of attention, if you are having to do a speech or something like that. So either you know that you're going to be in that situation and you're embarrassed about it, or unexpectedly you are finding yourself in a situation where you are the centre of attention. And number three is, of course, just sticky situations in general. I saw this really cool comment on a video about embarrassment, and this person said, doing embarrassing things or scary things over and over, but willing to do what you want in your heart, builds a mental muscle. It's called having courage to be yourself. And what about when we feel awkward when other people make mistakes? This is what is called vicarious embarrassment. And it's a good thing, because it means that you care. The place where we feel embarrassed in our brain is also the place where you have got empathy, where the empathy comes from. So it's kind of interesting, isn't it, that they're both located in the same parts of our brain. But when we feel embarrassed for other people, and we feel embarrassed that our presence is making them embarrassed, probably, because if no one was there, there's no embarrassment, is there? So yeah, that's called vicarious embarrassment. And what it is you can actually imagine the way that person's feeling right now. It is really a good thing. There's a whole industry around experiencing vicarious embarrassment in the name of entertainment. That kind of comedy, called cringe comedy, is about breaking rules, breaking social norms in an environment that is free from real world harm. And I know that I quite like watching cringe comedy, but I don't always feel like watching it. I'm not just going to sit there and watch heaps and heaps of it, because it can be painful, can't it? And I've seen comments in some of these videos about embarrassment where people just say no, that they literally can't watch The Office, for example, or TikToks and videos on social media, because it's just too painful. Some people say that they take a break from it and come back later to finish watching it if they really want to. But yeah, cringe comedy. So when you're watching The Office, it gives us a chance to experience what would happen, how could that play out when someone, for example at work, says something a bit off and unexpected. We don't want to harm people, we don't want to be mean to people, but some people in life, let's face it, they do really annoy us, right? Like there are those people at work who are territorial and they do have half the stationery cupboard in their personal desk, locked desk. But when you ask them, can you borrow the stapler? Well, they might not have a stapler, apparently. Okay, here's another example. What about when someone at work smells? I have actually been the team leader of someone who was well known not to shower, and they just didn't shower for many days, and they really did have quite a bad smell, and it was really a really horrible, rancid, really bad smell. I really like this person. I really liked working with them. They were actually quite a good friend because we'd been, colleagues together and sort of, worked at this company for a wee while. And I was, suddenly charged with having to tell her that her hygiene, was an issue. Like people are noticing the smell and everything. And I really did learn something from that. So first of all, it must have been about how many years ago? Maybe I want to say 10 years ago. So sometimes things can get a little bit scary. Sometimes like when you are managing people and you've got to say some things to people that aren't comfortable to say. And I always talk about it being like, I'm comfortable with being uncomfortable, because you have to be as a leader of people, right? I really built this up in my head that this was like the worst thing that could ever happen to a person. If someone said to me that I smelt bad and I was just smelling out the whole room, like in a really polite kind of way, I'd be pretty upset about that. Because this is the truth, I'm just someone who I shower twice a day, and it's something that I've always done ever since I was a teenager. And I like it, it just helps me sleep nicely, and I just feel good, and I've just got more energy again, and blah, blah, blah. The thing that I learned from that experience is that this person wasn't that gutted. I thought that they would be quite mortified. And then later when I reflected back on that conversation, because they were just kind of like, oh, okay. And I later on reflected on that conversation, and I thought to myself, first of all, she's been told that many times before, surely. The whole way she reacted was like, this wasn't the first time she's been told this. The second thing is that I then realized, like, don't put my sort of standards, for want of a better word, and sort of values, don't imagine that other people have got the same values and standards and that it's going to be the worst thing in the world. Because I realized this person knows that they're not showering every day, right? You cannot tell me that they couldn't actually smell themselves, because it was impossible not to. This person was really just not clean. I don't know, I want to say 5 or 7 days or something like that, coming to work and just not being in a good hygienic state. And so I really did learn something after that. And I just thought, okay, I'm sure that I just had A for awkward, capital A for capital letter awkward about the whole thing, because I was trying to sort of like imagine, and I wanted to let her know that, hey, this is really uncomfortable and all those things. So I probably did quite a poor job of it. And did it actually make a very big difference? I don't think it did really. And it was just one of those times, I think, when I probably just it wasn't a very great leadership moment for me really, because I don't think I followed up with her and about just the ongoing not being clean. People know if they're not showering, don't they? I saw another comment on another video about embarrassment, and this person said, if you do something and you embarrass yourself, if you're confident about it, they will follow you. And then there was discussion in the comments after that comment about just staying humble and accept that you are a fallible being. And if you just remember that everyone does things that they get embarrassed about, because To err is to human, isn't it? Everyone screws up at times. And if you just remember that, and you're generous to other people as well, and just go, no one cares, you're fine, and then just like move past it, well, maybe if you're in the habit of doing that, maybe that would help you be a little bit kinder to yourself as well, because, or certainly allow other people to help you to feel better if, you do something a little bit wibbly wobbly. What about people who don't seem to get very embarrassed about stuff? Like they actually just don't seem to like get deeply embarrassed, because probably initially, most people do get like a little bit embarrassed. It would be pretty superhuman if you didn't get a little bit embarrassed about some things. But some people seem to not get deeply embarrassed. And one of those people that I've always noticed who don't seem to feel embarrassment is Jennifer Lawrence, the actor. And I think that she has really made that part of her brand. I'm actually convinced that she writes down, like she keeps a running record of embarrassing things that she does, so that when she is on different interviews and different talk shows and all of that, then she's got fresh material to be bringing out. I literally saw her practically hijack a Jimmy Fallon interview where she just came out like off the ropes, just punching, and I could see Jimmy like, okay, right, because obviously they've got the set thing that they want to talk to people about, and she was really just trying to like get through the stories, and then she literally said, oh, look, I've just got one more, like the number 2, like worst, most embarrassing thing that I've ever done. And he was just going, okay, like the whole Jimmy Fallon thing, right? What do you think of that? Different video, another video. But she just really wanted to spill the guts on the most embarrassing things that ever happened. And I think that's just part of her whole shtick. I think it's part of her brand. And if you look up Jennifer Lawrence embarrassing, you will then get Jennifer Lawrence embarrassing moments, Jennifer Lawrence embarrassing stories, and you'll just see lots of talk show videos, and you'll see some social media videos, and you'll see some articles written about it, because I think she's extremely good at it, and I think that there is a lot that we can learn from her whole attitude about it, because that's relatable. Doing embarrassing things, when people do embarrassing things, because why are we embarrassed? Let's look at why are we embarrassed. We're embarrassed because we spend time cultivating some kind of neat, tidy, put together kind of persona. In a way, like I don't really think that we are, we're all going around actively trying to curate some kind of image. Remember, we're not on the gram, we're the little squat ducks on the rapids, just trying to keep our head above the water long enough to suck in some air, so that when we are pulled down underneath that water and we are being tossed around like a sock in a washing machine. And there's the whole authentic thing as well this year, that especially on YouTube, the buzzword 2024, 2025 is authenticity. That's not going away anytime soon, is it? But we're talking about our day-to-day lives, because obviously when you're making a YouTube video, you are in control of what you publish. But on the day-to-day, we do want to be with our shites together, adults. We're adulting responsibly. We're looking after the environment. We are picking up after ourselves. We're not being big slobby pigs in places that affect other people and bother other people. All of that. But yeah, I would say that Jennifer Lawrence, that's actually like a little genre. There's a whole genre. And who else is really, really good at that? I think that it's all the charismatic people. If you watch Charisma on Command, and who's the guy that runs it now by himself, but there's so many videos about all the funny people. Like you've got the Ryan Reynolds, and they're people who don't take themselves super heavily. They take themselves lightly, and we like them for it. It's relatable. We can actually connect with those people, especially, for example, actors who live completely different lives now, but they can remember what it's like just to be ordinary schmucks like us. We like them for that, And they're smart enough to know that that's likable. That's likability, that's personability. Is that even a word, personability? It is now. Who else? So Kevin Hart, he also loves to share his embarrassing stuff and uses it all the time in his comedy. Comedians love to talk about their embarrassing moments. And one of the funniest things I've ever heard Kevin Hart talk about is where he was like coming up, he was grinding. He was like, I don't know where he was, some kind of lunch thing where people were eating chicken wings. So you can see he wasn't sort of in the big time yet, hanging out with The Rock and having giant dinosaur park sized trailers. He was getting chicken wings thrown at him when he was doing some stand-up comedy. As I say, on his way up in his career. The thing that really made him feel shame and humiliation, and I don't really mean this in a deep Brené Brown kind of shame and embarrassment, even though I said it in that way, like the shame, the embarrassment. You can tell I've watched those videos, can't you? Yeah, like why wouldn't you, right? If you're a smart person, you're getting yourself some Brené Brown in your life. But it was this older black woman that, and I'm not going to ruin it for you if you ever watch this piece of comedy from Kevin Hart, but I think that he's talked about it on a Graham Norton show. It was just something that she said, and I think it was 3 words. That got the biggest laughs when he tells the story about what this older black woman said. That's not good, is it? The chicken wings being thrown at you. That's not good feedback. I don't know, does The Rock tell embarrassing stories? But everyone loves The Rock. What do you reckon? Do you reckon he's going to go for president? Not that I'm a political channel. No strikes, please. You know, like some people have just really, it's really a thing. It's a very, very real thing. And I'm not taking that away from people who have a really massive fear. That would make you feel really, really humiliated, and it would make you feel really ashamed. And I guess a lot of people have just got a bit of a fear of being embarrassed, but if you can lose the fear of being embarrassed, that is really powerful. It's really liberating, and it helps you to do new things and try new things and do things that, you know, are a little bit scary without feeling like your whole world is going to crumble if it doesn't pull off. It lets you really go into lanes, you know, in life that you wouldn't have gotten into otherwise because you are just, you know, so petrified. So getting rid of the fear of being embarrassed. So yeah, that's a really powerful one. It's a really powerful one, okay? And hey, YouTube, I am all about encouraging people to start a YouTube channel. The thing about building a YouTube channel, of course, is that you are building in public. Check these guys out, man. Now see, they don't have a fear of being embarrassed, do they? There's a lot that we can learn from little kids, and it's really, really fun that, you know, as we get to be a little bit older, and if we have grandkids, then we are around little kids a lot more, and you know, they just remind us to be present and to play. Okay, so YouTube is building in public. You are building your YouTube in public. You are stepping out there. You are not qualified to be a YouTuber. No one's qualified. There's no degree about learning how to be a YouTuber that is going to guarantee you success. Is there? You're building in public, you don't know what you don't know, which is a good thing, otherwise no one would start YouTube in the first place, and you're going to make a lot of mistakes, and people are definitely going to try and shame you out, and that's okay, because remember, I talk about Sally Pants 789 sitting somewhere in her house. She's never really stepped out of her comfort zone into anything that's very scary. No one cares. What do you care, Sally Pants 789? So apparently, the people that are most susceptible to getting embarrassed are more concerned with social norms and social rejection, the fear of social rejection, and much less likely to rock the social boat. The social boat. That's a whole other video, isn't it? It's a whole other topic. But, you know, what does it mean to rock the social boat? What is the social boat? What about, though, when you don't know what the social norms are in any given situation? Let's take the example of being at a big sports match, and what do they call it? Is it called a jumbotron? It's when the camera goes on to people in the crowd and then suddenly they're up on the big screen. So this is called the dramaturgic model of embarrassment. So I want you to pay attention now, because you may not have heard of this. This model is called the dramaturgic model of embarrassment. I never knew this. I've just learned this when I was researching making this video. You'll know what it is, but you may not have heard of the model. So just next time when you're just feeling like wheeling out something, just at, morning tea on Monday or lunch with the girls, just ask them if they've had any dramaturgic models of embarrassment happen to them lately. How did they handle it? What were their learnings, and what would they do differently the next time? Okay? Or maybe not. Not if you want to keep on being friends with them, right? And getting invited back to the ladies' lunch. And it just all sounds all a little bit worky, doesn't it? Like, what did you learn? Oh my God, that is such a job interview question. What was the STAR? There we go. The STAR system. The competency-based questions, and you need to answer them in the STAR system. What was the situation? What was the task that you needed to achieve? What actions did you take, and what was the result? And what did you learn? What would you do differently next time? All of that. But yeah, so let's say, for example, that you are at a sports match and you were just having a private moment, having your overfilled plate of nachos. It's a messy, risky thing to have at a sports match, but if they're going to sell it, right, there'll be other people doing it, and it's got to be good. It's got to be safe. It can't be terrible. Otherwise, they might have stopped selling it. But let's just say that you're eating messy nachos and you are just going to put a nacho in your mouth that might be, just say, a little bit top heavy, might be a little bit full. The scaffolding might not be enough for the task at hand. So situation, heavy nacho, task, trying to get it into your mouth, neat and tidily. What action did you take? Well, you went to go and eat it. What was the result of doing that? Well, next thing, the Jumbotron is up in your grill. And suddenly, you look up because people are laughing or cheering and people around you. You just notice out the corner of your eye that, the people sitting in front of you are looking up at you. And so you are now looking up, and you're a star now. You are a star. What do you do? So the reason why this is called the dramaturgic model of embarrassment, it's when we feel embarrassed, but we can't figure out what the socially accepted thing to do is at a time like this. And part of the reason we can find ourselves in situations like that is because they don't come around very often. Like, for example, how often do you find yourself with a camera? What are the chances? What are the frickin' chances? Well, the chances, it was your lucky day. You are up. Your number is up. You're on. So yeah, that is what that is called. So what do you do? What do you do? Do you sort of do by the time you start trying to sort of laugh it off, maybe a few people have had a bit of entertainment by then. It's not easy, is it? It's not easy. And I don't care who you are. I don't care if you are, what is that guy from the 70s show? Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis? Ashton and Mila. I don't care if you're them. I've seen them go up on the big Jumbotrons. I've seen them go up on the Jumbotrons. If there are some movie stars in the audience, there's a chance that they might get up on there. But having said that, that's their day job, and we do expect them to handle it, don't we? Because they're used to being shown in public up on big screens. But the next time you feel ashamed about having an embarrassing moment, try to remember other people's embarrassing moments. Try to remember people that you've been with and that you've been around that have had embarrassing moments. What was that? You can't think of any? No? Oh, well, then you must be the only human being in the world that does dumb things. Dumb, embarrassing, stupid, foolish. How on earth did you do that? Things. Right? Yeah, I think you get my point. So anyway, we are just summing up now, and the thing that I want to leave you with is embarrassment is just a mindset. It's a mindset. No one can actually make you feel embarrassed. Only you can do that. But it's how it makes you feel from that moment on that is either going to have an ongoing negative impact on you, or is it going to have a positive impact? Well, look, it will, if you can get a laugh out of it later and you can share that and give someone else a bit of a laugh later on. Embarrassment is just a mindset, and no one can make you feel embarrassed. That is totally over to you. That is on you. And I'm not saying that it is easy to get better at dealing with embarrassment, but so you bend over and you fart, okay? I saw a video where this guy dressed up as a dill, and yeah, man, there were like some real pickle jokes in the comments, as you can well imagine, like, wow, you know, like, that is no big deal. I don't find that so embarrassing. And I think the guy himself was saying things like, you know, lest you should find yourself in a pickle. Yeah, no one can make you feel embarrassed. It's how you react to it. And in all honesty, I don't think there's anything super embarrassing about being dressed up in a little suit and walking around. I mean, we do see people, you know, walking around at sports matches and even on the street. I just assume that they're working, they're promoting something, they're going to work, and their job is like advertising those pizzas. So they're dressed like a slice of pizza, and they're, you know, waving sandwich boards around at the traffic, and people are tooting and all of that. So I just assume if I see someone in the street dressed up in something, they go into a party, they've got a really fun job, they are going to work today, they've been dared to go out on the street and walk around in that little suit, and that is just all good. I admire people who will just put themselves out there and will, you know, not take themselves too seriously. I think that's part of it too. Then we all get to have that funny little nervous laugh. You know, it's like when you're at a funeral and something not very funny happens. But if you notice when you're at a funeral and when something like not very funny happens, it will be mildly funny, like the priest or the person giving, you know, the talk will say something about, and hey, you know, there's plenty of boxes of tissues, and don't be afraid, pass them along, you know, do a kind thing for a fellow brother or sister, and haha, and everyone just like starts laughing. Like, it's nervous laughter and it's energy that people just need to get out, don't they, at funerals? And truly, I have seen that. Have you seen that when you've been at funerals and the tiniest thing that ain't that funny, outside of that context, people are not laughing that hard? Like, in actual fact, you're not even probably getting like turned up corners of the mouth at some of those sorts of things, but suddenly you're at a very serious occasion, so you're quite hyper-conscious of, I just need to make sure to behave appropriately because this is all really horrible, and all of that kind of thing. So, right, the final thing I want to share with you is that people are making videos about how to forget your embarrassing moments. I saw quite a few videos about that, and I did wonder to myself, is that where we're coming from? That we're trying to forget embarrassing moments? I did watch a couple of them, and I don't think that they really emphasized how to forget your worst, crippling, embarrassing moments. It was just generally how to forget your embarrassing moments. I don't know. Sure, if that's where people are coming from, a video like that for sure is useful. So have you ever had like a really hurt and like embarrassing, maybe it might have felt a little bit humiliating sort of situation? I mean, I don't know, is that too deep saying, did it really hurt you or did it humiliate you? But sometimes people can have things happen that was really humiliating. Like, to be honest, okay, if I was to run through a car wash, like there's a car wash here in this shopping mall, if I was to run through a car wash and when I got to the other side, like it's on and going around with all the soap and stuff, and it's on, and I was to come out the other side and all my clothes had just been car washed off me, that would be seriously humiliating. That would really thrust me into, you know, next another level. So I do need to remember that, you know, for me it might be all my clothes coming off after I just innocently went through a car wash. You know, not expecting my clothes to be pulled off me, brushed off me, washed off me on a really busy Sunday afternoon, right near the entrance of the mall, not even in the back corner like this one is here. You know, that could be someone else's being wished happy birthday at work when they were trying to keep it a secret, and then they've got a boss or a manager who just keeps on bringing it up all day long, and they might be a really private person and just not wanting to share that kind of information. So I've got to remember that, one man's humiliation is example might look different but feel the same level to another man's feeling of humiliation, another man or another woman. So leaving you with that. But do you have embarrassing things that have happened to you and that you remember every single detail of it? If you do, I'd love to read about it. If you don't want to share, but just say you had something super really bad at a bad level, I'm not asking if you were actually hurt, because I do know that people, when they run out onto a frozen pond, those people can get quite hurt. So if you've done that and you don't want to share the gory details of that, okay, here's a good funny example. Right, so one of my posties, I used to work with posties, and one of my posties hurt his back over the Christmas period. So I saw him maybe a few days after Christmas. We were all back at work, keeping the company going, while some other lucky people were on holiday. And he didn't tell me that he'd hurt himself. And he had to actually have a conversation with me, because there were certain postie rounds that he couldn't go on because he'd hurt his back. How did you hurt your back? Well, actually, it's really embarrassing. I didn't want to say, but those Zoom slides from our generation, they were blue. I think they might all still be blue. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. But, this is the dads hurting themselves on Christmas Day. You know where the story is going. So his kids got given one of these Zoom slides, and Gary, not to mention any names, Gary Forster. I did bump into Gary actually the other day. So sorry, Gary, if you ever watch this, your name and your image just happens to still freshly be in my mind, because you were running the trains for us the other night when we were coming home from football. So soz, not soz there, Gazza. But Gary Forster from Wellington, New Zealand, he said to me, look, Karen, I was playing with this, had a few drinks, thought we would get the dishwashing liquid out, squirt it onto the Zoom slide, get more water on it, just get the whole thing just going. And so then I just, I sort of just did the big kamikaze thing. I just ran at it, and, the rest is history. Found himself in ER that night. But is that wise? But that's something that he just said, I'm really, really embarrassed. He didn't want anyone to know about it. And I just said, Gary, your secret is safe with me, asterisk. But, until I'm not working there anymore, and see you on the day-to-day. Now. Thank you for watching the video up to this point. I hope that you learned some things. I hope that you got some tips in there that just really help you delete the fear of being embarrassed, because honestly, he or she who can laugh off being embarrassed, well, kind of it just deflates it, doesn't it? It just, to me, it takes the power away from, if you laugh at yourself, you actually can't be hurt by other people laughing at you. If you just jump in there and you just lead the way, you role model how to handle it, man, and you laugh at yourself in a stupid, embarrassing situation, then that can really help with other people can't hurt you by having a bit of a laugh. You just beat them to the laugh. Yeah, I'll leave you to that. I'll leave you with that.